Okay, so I'm just going to do talk to you about it. It's a case study with my daughter Bianca. So, you know, it might not be relevant to everyone, but it's helped with her. It's therapy that she's been doing with her occupational therapist, who specializes in working with children on the autism spectrum disorder. So for her to pick up the issues that Bianca experienced with Prader-Willi was really easy. She could understand it really easily and could help a lot. The school actually recommended her to us. And so this approach we've mostly been using for her at school, but it can be used at home as well. But the reason why at school is because we just found that challenging behavior was more of a challenge at school than at home. At home, you know, we have a stable environment, there's a routine, you know, we all know the boundaries, we can see the signs of a meltdown, we all know her, she comes to me for calming. Whereas at school, you know, there's a lot more other people, the environment isn't always as predictable, although it's structured, there's still changes. The staff change, people don't know her as well, and she doesn't have anyone to go to for calming. So the kind of things that would upset her was, for example, if she was packing up her bag at the end of the day, if a classmate decided just to join in and help her, that would annoy her. She doesn't like getting help. If classmates were specifically trying to irritate, sometimes they worked out that there were certain things that they could niggle her about. If there was a choice of, for example, as a teacher was giving them all bean bags and there was a choice of colors, Bianca always wanted green because it's her favorite color. You know, wanting to finish a chapter when doing a reading activity. So, you know, task switching, she doesn't like to be rushed. Sometimes she would get upset if a teacher didn't wait for her to talk or try to put words in her mouth. And then obviously there's sometimes food-related issues. For example, if they have a birthday ring, I normally allow her to have whatever they're having. But if there's a choice of different things, sometimes that can be a problem. Or if she wants to keep the wrappers afterwards. So there's quite a lot of different things that can trigger upsets, just to give examples. So the OT, when she first started seeing this OT, I have to admit I was a little bit skeptical about how well it would work. So I was pleasantly surprised. So it's a counseling really, and she would speak to her in a way that she could really resonate with. And similar to what Yvonne said, identify the feelings. Often adults overestimate their emotional IQ. So, you know, speaking to her about her feelings and the words that she uses, what upsets her. So often there's two things. She could be happy and calm, or annoyed and upset, very upset and angry. And then she would talk to her initially about what sort of things would upset her and just get a real understanding of all the different issues. And then initially she would also encourage the adults in her environment to help her identify those emotions. So there was quite a lot of work with the first teacher that she had when she started doing this. Okay, so the next step was to validate the feelings. So she said to her, it's fine, you know, you can't stop those feelings. You can't say you can't have those feelings. You know, if you're angry, you're angry. If you're upset about the classmate helping you pack up your bag, you can't say to her, it's inappropriate to be upset about that, because she is upset. You know, if the teacher takes away the wrapper, she's upset. So it's very much about acknowledging that you can be upset about these things, and there are big emotions. So, you know, we will work with them. And then it was more to identify then, you know, what is appropriate. So yes, you can feel upset, and it's okay to feel upset, but it's not okay to scream and bang the table and disrupt the class, shout at the friend who is trying to help you, or, you know, disturb other classes that are quietly working. And this is explained, you know, during calm sessions when they're talking, not obviously in the heat of the moment, you know, long after the fact, but just helping her to understand that circumstance. And then the next step was to identify what you can do. So adults especially, I mean, I always had to learn quite a lot with her, is that you can't always just tell kids what they mustn't do. You've actually got to tell them what they must do. And it works for all children, not only with those with Prader-Willi. So, you know, you could say, don't do this, don't break things, don't scream, but you mustn't forget to tell them what they should be doing instead. So for her, it was then important to find a strategy that she could do when she's feeling these emotions. And by talking it through with her, she could almost like reprogram her approach and behavior. Obviously, in the beginning, a little bit of help was maybe needed, a bit of encouragement from the teacher or whatever, if she can see emotions coming on. So, for example, with a classmate helping her to pack up, the OT would explain to her, if she could identify those feelings before she gets upset, then she can tell the classmate, please don't help me. I like to do it on my own. So she actually managed to do that, because then she could realize she could pick up earlier that she was getting upset and that she could say something. And then she could avoid that situation. And then for the other occasions, when the emotions get too big to talk, the OT arranged with the school to allow her to go out the classroom to a quiet place in the playground to self-calm. And it was important not to have a choice of strategy, but to have one strategy, because they can't think about choices in the heat of the moment. They've got to just have this plan and be able to go for it, you know. I think in some cases there can be sensory calming if you can do linear movements or chewing or deep pressure, but she hasn't had to do these things for where she goes in the playground. And then the other thing was to explain the theory of mind, which is also similar to what Yvonne said about what other people are thinking. So this is not also obviously in the heat of the moment, but after an occasion, and explain to her, because she doesn't know what other people are thinking, and she believes that other people know what she's thinking. And so she doesn't realize that, for example, this girl who wants to help her pack up, Bianca thinks that this girl knows that she doesn't want her to help her pack up, but she's doing it anyway. But actually, this girl doesn't know this, right? She doesn't know, she thinks she's being helpful. So she had to explain that to her, that actually this girl doesn't know how you're feeling, and often that the teachers don't know how you're feeling, and they can be confused by her behavior. They don't understand, often they don't understand what upset her, you know, and that it's really important for her to tell them, you know, to say what she's feeling, and not to let it get to that point of boiling over. Because obviously, in the heat of the moment, she can't think about what other people are thinking. You know, it's too late at that point. And it's also important, that it can't be a motivator, not upsetting other people can't be a motivator to change your behavior, because they can't think like that in the heat of the moment. But for Bianca, the motivator is actually that she feels quite bad afterwards. If she has a big meltdown, she feels sad and she feels bad. So that's more for her, the motivator, that she actually wants to change. And then the last step, if you know there's going to be something different, like a market day or an outing or anything that you think that might possibly cause an upset, like if they're baking or, you know, something like that, then to have a social story and explain everything up front. It's amazing how if they can explain, this is what we're going to do, and lay out the steps, it's almost like they hypnotize them into doing exactly what they say they're going to do. You know, if they just say we're going to do this and then this, and it's going to be like this and it's going to be like that, and then they follow those steps. It's amazing. I mean, Bianca's always been quite routine like that. So, but it's really good to lay it out beforehand. The problem is this year we had a change of teacher, and I spent quite a lot of time with the teacher that was leaving, planning her timetable and everything for this year. And then what happened is she knew then what the timetable was going to be. But then when the new teacher arrived, they changed things around. The school changed things around, not knowing that we had this whole plan and she had this whole social story. And then things went a bit pear-shaped, because then it didn't go according to the plan. So, but if you can plan and prep them beforehand, then, you know, you can avoid upsets. So just in summary, these strategies have really helped Bianca. She started doing it when she was about 11 or 12, I can't remember exactly. So she was a bit older and a bit more mature enough to have these conversations. It doesn't always work. We still have meltdowns, but she knows to go to her quiet place. Sometimes, she sees the OT regularly. So every time there's an upset, they'll discuss it. And sometimes the plan gets a little bit tweaked. And what has been amazing with having this OT, actually for me especially, like, even though last year she had months where there was no problems because the teacher and her got to know each other and it was all kind of seamless, it was still really handy to have the OT in place, because she's my go-between between me and the school. And she just tells them straight, you know, you can't expect her to work in the tuck shop, full stop, you know, like. Whereas if I'm the one telling them, they just don't believe me, because I'm not this outside professional. They just, you know, and when an outside professional comes in and says it, then they believe them. So it's really helpful to find that person that you can have to be that go-between. And sometimes things have gone wrong. So sometimes if the quiet place is occupied, The teachers have tried to call her back when she's upset, or they've tried to engage with her. You know, she needs that time to calm down. They can't keep trying to get her to come back. And then every time we have a new teacher, like this year, she's got a new teacher, and then there's a whole teething phase when they get to know each other and they have to sort of figure it all out. So it's not seamless, but it's really helped a lot. And so if other people can use the strategy, then yeah, it's worth trying. Okay, that's me.